So to start the first assignment, and this will be the same process for all assignments, is to go to Canvas, go to Assignments, and what we're looking for is PGE 383 Assignment 1. So if you click on that, the only thing there will be this link. And if you click on that link, it'll open up a new browser window. And in your case, you won't get this screen. You'll just get a screen that says accept assignment. Once you click that, accept this assignment, it'll take a few seconds. But if you refresh the browser after a few seconds, what you'll see is something like this. It says you're ready to go. And there's another URL now that you can click on. And so what happened there was it took a template assignment, assignment 1, and it created a copy of it that's associated with your account. So the organization will be PGE 383 HPC students. And then yours will say PGE 383-assignment1- your GitHub username. It'll be followed by your GitHub username. So this is the assignment, and the first assignment, and again, we'll walk through it step by step, but on any GitHub repository, whatever is in the README file is automatically rendered on GitHub. So you can actually read the assignment instructions exactly here from GitHub. But of course, we want to clone this to Spindletop to be able to work it, to be able to work the assignment. So what we'll do to clone it to Spindletop is we'll go over here to this green tab that says Code, and we'll click that, and then make sure here that that the SSH is highlighted. So it should not be HTTPS, it should be SSH. And you can tell the difference because the SSH will start at GitHub versus the HTTPS starts with HTTPS. So again, make sure you click SSH. And then what you want to do is copy what's in this box. Again, Control-C, or you can just click this little paste board right here. And if you click that paste board, it will automatically copy it to your clipboard. Once you have it copied, return to Spindletop and to the terminal command line window. Now we're going to actually issue the commands to clone that repository from GitHub and create a local copy associated with your local user account on Spindletop. So what you want to do is type git clone and then paste that URI that was copied from GitHub. So again, don't forget the git clone. So git clone and then paste the URI and hit enter. And you'll see some messages. But more importantly, if you look in the file browser, you'll see now there's a folder that's associated with that repository, right? It has the same name as the repository that was created on GitHub when you accepted the assignment. We can also view it from the terminal window, so you can type ls, of course. That lists the terminal, that lists the directories that are in the current directory. So the other thing we can do here is we can type pwd, print working directory. I'll try to zoom in again. So again, type ls, that lists the folders in the current directory. You can type pwd to show the current working directory. And now what we want to do is move into the repository from the terminal. So we'll do CD and we'll type PGE. And here you should learn to use tab completion. Tab completion will make you much more productive in the Unix environment. So I'm only going to type a few letters of what I want to, eventually type out. And then I'm just going to hit tab. And it will automatically complete to the end as far as it can be unique, right? So if you had multiple folders in there, say you have PG 383 assignment 1 and PG 383 assignment 2, well, it's only going to auto-complete up to the number, and then you'll have to type in the number you want and hit tab again, and it'll auto-complete the rest. So autocomplete is something you should just get into a habit of, just type a few letters of what you want to type and then hit tab. It'll save you a lot of headaches and mistakes. So learn to use tab completion. So once you're there, you can hit return. You can hit ls to print, what's in the current directory. Okay. You can also see what's in the current directory from the file browser over on the left. So again, if yours is not there, you can toggle it with the folder. If you double click on this, it will show you what's in the folder. For all assignments, you should always start with the README, okay? That's where at least the initial instructions for the assignment will be. And if you double click on the README, it opens it up in a text editor, which is fine. And this is fairly readable, okay? But we can actually render it as rich text that's more human readable if we right click on README and say open with markdown preview. And now we get something that's more human readable, right? So this is not editable. So it depends on if you want to just view the markdown file versus if you want to edit it, okay? So this is where the instructions are for this assignment. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to split the screen here and put this over here on the right-hand side, leaving my terminal on the left. So now I can read the instructions and work on the terminal here. So always, please read the instructions. A lot of times I get questions and they're clearly explained in the instructions. Of course, as the class goes on, the assignments will get longer and there'll be, longer instructions and hints in there, and please read them. So step one, we've already done. We've cloned the repository to Spindletop. So the next thing it says, in the command window, navigate to assignment 1 repository. Well, we've also already done that. We can verify that again with PWD and verify that we're inside the assignment repository. The repository's name is PGE 383-assignment1 John T. Foster, or yours will have your GitHub name. And the second part of that is create a new text file, solution.txt. So you can create a new empty text file with using the touch command. So if you just type touch solution.txt, enter. And then of course we can type ls and you can see that it's there. It also will appear in the file browser after a few seconds. So over here on the left, you see solution.txt in the file browser. So step 3 is to open the new file with the text editor and enter the following text exactly as it appears, okay? So double click on solution.txt and it will automatically open up a file browser. Again, depending on your settings, yours may not have a black background like mine, but that doesn't really matter. You can adjust that later. And then from here, what we want to do is we want to enter the text exactly as it appears, right? So capital H, hello, comma, space, capital W, world, exclamation point. If you do not have that exactly as it appears, it's not going to pass the test correctly, okay? So anytime you start with the hello world example comes from this historically, anytime you learn a new programming language, the first thing you do is you always write a hello world program. That is just a program that prints hello world back to the screen. Every online introduction to programming typically starts with that assignment. So we need to save this. You can verify that this is not saved with this by looking at this solid circle here at the top of the tab. So you see these other ones that have X's versus this one has a solid circle. And we can save this by, your typical Command S on a Mac or Control S on a Windows machine, or you can go to File, Save File, and then you'll notice that what was before a solid dot is now turned into an X. And so we can safely close this knowing it's saved. Okay. So now what we want to do is, well, we can actually run the test locally to verify that we've done this correctly. And the way we'll do that is we'll just type python test.py and hit enter. And it will tell us ran one test, everything's okay. So every assignment will be distributed with some tests that you can run locally to verify if your code is working correctly. But after you've verified that it's working correctly, then what we want to do for submitting it is we need to make a commit into the Git repository and then push it back to GitHub. So we make a commit. Well, first of all, let's, if you recall from the lecture on Git, there's a couple of commands that are very useful. And one of them is git status. So we type git status. It gives us some information. It says your branch is up to date with origin master. If you remember, origin is the default name given to the remote repository. The remote repository in our case sits at GitHub. It's the copy that you cloned down from GitHub. And so what we have here, at least in the commit history, is identical to that. And that's because we haven't made any new commits. Okay. It tells us there is an untracked file, solution.txt. And so we need to add that file, or in the lingo of Git, we need to stage it for commit. And the way we do that is we type git add solution.txt. And again, you can use tab completion to get that completed, then hit enter. And now if we type git status again, you'll see what was red before is now green, and it says changes to be committed are here. So now we're going to go ahead and attempt to make a commit. Right? So we'll type git commit -m. Recall the -m stands for message. And the commit messages in this class aren't that important, but as you go on and later and you contribute to real code, with a team and, participate in, real team development, then you'll want to make sure that your commit messages are meaningful. And I had some tips in the notes about what should be in a commit message. But for now, we can just say, like first submission or something like that. Needs to be enclosed in quotes. Hit enter. Oh, we get a message. This message will only appear this first time. We're going to fix this so that you'll never see this message again. And we're going to fix it by running these two commands one at a time. And they're short. You could just type them out, but I'm going to copy them. So I'm going to copy the first one, git config -- global user.email. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it onto the command line. But then before I hit return, I'm going to back up, and in between the quotes, I want to put the email address that I use to register for GitHub. I'll show you why that is in a second. and then hit enter. And then the second thing I'm going to do is copy and paste the second command, and in between the quotes, put my name as I want it to appear in commit history, right? I typically use my middle initial anytime I write my name. So with those two commands issued, and again, if you did that correctly, this is the only time you'll ever see that. You won't have to do that again. Then we can attempt to make our commit again. And you could type git commit again, but you can also scroll through your history of commands by using the arrow keys. So if I type up, I can go back through all the recent commands that I just issued. So in this case, I only have to go back 3 commands to get back to that git commit. So once I've found that command, and again, you could type it out again, I'll hit enter. And then we've made our first commit. Now this commit, we haven't pushed it to GitHub yet. This commit only exists locally. Okay. And we can verify that by typing git log. I'm going to clear my screen and type git log so you can see what the output of git log is. So git log tells us basically a history of the commits, right? There's this unique identifier for the 2 commits that are there. The first one was the initial commit that I made. And the second one is the commit that you all just made. And if you did things correctly on the author, you should now see your name and your email as you entered it for those commands. The other thing that's here is it tells us that over here on the right in red here, it says that origin master is at this commit. So again, remember origin is the default name given to the remote repository from which we cloned. That's GitHub in our case. Master is the branch, and we only have one branch here. So it's basically saying that locally, the head of our local Git repository is on this second commit. Therefore, we're 1 commit ahead of what appears on GitHub. So we need to push these changes to GitHub. And the way we do that is we just type git push origin master and then hit enter. And if you did things correctly earlier, you won't be prompted for a password or anything like that. And it will automatically push the changes back to GitHub. You can verify that by returning to the repository on GitHub, refresh the browser, and you'll see here that now the most recent commit and whatever commit message you wrote is there. The first few letters of the unique hash are here. You can see the solution.txt file is there. Now, the other important thing to see is this little yellow dot right here. So if you were to click on that yellow dot, it says in this case, some checks haven't completed yet, but let's just let it run a few minutes here. What it's doing is actually running the tests in the cloud, verifying that your code is working correctly. I mean, your code in this case is just what you typed in that solution.txt, but nevertheless, as we go on to more complicated things, this will actually test your code. It'll run it for you in the cloud. It's running on something called a continuous integration server, which is used in software engineering to verify code development. So in a larger project, what you would typically do is every single line of code that you write, you would have some function, some tests that assert, given these inputs, this function should produce this known output. And you would have assertions in there that verify that that's true. And if it's true, then it passes the test, right? So the idea here is you go along and you add new code. You don't want any of your new code to break any of the old code that existed in the code base. And so these tests run automatically every change you make. This is what keeps code quality high, okay? So after a few minutes, if you refresh the browser again, if you did things correctly, you will see a green check mark there. If you see the green check mark, you can go on about your day. You've completed the assignment correctly. If you see a red X, and I'll demonstrate momentarily, by intentionally messing things up so that we can see what a red X looks like. But if you'd like to see the details of what the continuous integration server did, you can click on the green check mark. You can follow it to details. And then, each of these basically are just console log reports of what was done. Most of it is just a setup. So basically what this does is it fires up a blank Linux server. It installs an environment into it. In this case, the only thing that it's really installing is just a bare bones Python distribution. And then it runs the tests, or it runs the command python test.py, just like we ran locally, and it reports the results. So every day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and 4 o'clock in the morning, I have a script that runs, and it scrapes the results of these of these tests, and it automatically uploads to the gradebook. You get a green check mark, you get a 1. If there's a red X, you get a 0. Okay. Normally, that will run every day at 4 p.m. and at 4 a.m. Right. Again, if you see the green check, you can go on about your day. And the next time the script runs at 4 p.m. or whatever, you should see your grade updated in Canvas, okay? You're welcome to attempt to submit these assignments many times up until the deadline, okay? So just, this is how we do real life code development. We don't just try one time, and if it doesn't pass the test, we quit, right? We continue to debug our code until we figure out why it's not passing the tests and continue to submit. And so that's what we'll do here up until the deadline. So I want to show you another approach. So what we did here, everything we did was from the command line. And it's good to know some basic commands, but I also want to demonstrate another way to do everything. So first thing I'm going to do is actually remove the repository from my folder. So I'm starting from scratch again. Okay, so I'm starting from scratch again. I'm going to return to the repository on GitHub. I'm going to go to the green thing. I'm going to copy the URI. And this time when I go to Jupyter Lab, instead of manually typing git clone in the terminal window, I'm going to go over here to the left of the file browser and the third one down. So there's like a folder, some kind of stop button, and then something that looks like a little tree. This is a logo for Git. I'm going to click on that thing, and I'm going to click on clone a repository, and then I'm going to paste the URI into the box that pops up and hit clone, and you'll see that automatically cloned the repository there, right? Now, just for demonstration, what I'm going to do is open solution.txt here, and I'm going to intentionally make a mistake. So I'm going to remove the misspell word there. Save it. And now, again, instead of issuing the git commands via the terminal window, what I'll do is go over here to this git tree again, click that, and now you'll see it says that solution.txt has changed, okay? It'll appear in this changed. So I can revert it. I can revert it with this command. Like if I wanted to discard the changes and go back to the way it was, I will, you can also, of course, open the file. You can also diff the file. So if you click on this second button, you can open it up and it'll actually show you the difference. So over here on the left, is the way it was, and over here on the right is the way it is now. So you can actually explicitly see the changes that were made between two versions of the file. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and, even though we know it's incorrect, I'm doing this just for demonstration. I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus. That means that I'm staging it for commit. So I added it to be committed. You notice it moved from files that were changed to now files that are staged. And then I can type a commit message down here in the bottom. So I'll just type wrong submission. I'll hit commit. It made the commit. And then I need to push it back to GitHub. So to push it back to GitHub, up here at the top, you see these four buttons. Well, one of them that says it's a little cloud with an arrow pointing to the sky up. If you click on that, it'll also, the hover tooltip will tell you push committed changes. So if you push that, if you hit that button, it will push those back to GitHub. So returning to GitHub, refreshing the browser, there you can see that you have the wrong submission there, and it's running the test. So while we were doing that, this completed its test. Now we see a red X. So that's what you look for if something went wrong. You can click on it. You can click on details. And there it'll show you what went wrong. Right? And so it's basically telling me that, something, this assertion is not true. And you may need to go and look at the actual test file to see what this is doing. But in this case, we know that it's testing, what it's reading versus hello world. And because I intentionally misspelled it, it's failing, right? So this is what you'll see when, see something like this when it fails. It takes a little bit of time and practice to learn to read these stack traces to understand exactly why the failure occurs. That will come with experience in the class. The standard things you'll have to do every class, right, is go to Canvas, go to the assignments, find that day's assignment, click on the assignment link to accept the assignment. That will create a copy or a clone associated with your GitHub username on GitHub. Copy the URI from that, paste it into Jupyter Lab on Spindletop, either via the command line commands or the tool, the plugin, the Git plugin, and clone the repository locally. Once you have the repository locally, work the assignment, following the instructions, test it locally, Python test.py, run on Spindletop. That'll give you an idea if things are going to work correctly. If it passes there, commit it and push it back to GitHub, where it will run the tests automatically in the cloud, and then your grade will automatically be input to Canvas the next time the grading script runs.